Hey guys, my name is Rob, and today we're reviewing the Scuf Valor Pro. This is an officially licensed wired Xbox controller, which is also compatible with PCs running Windows 10 and 11. Historically, I haven't been a huge fan of Scuf, but I'm pretty excited about the Valor Pro for a couple of reasons. This is their first console and PC controller to feature Hall effect sticks, and also only their second controller that is built from the ground up, meaning it's not a reskinned and customized first party controller from Xbox or PlayStation. Their first attempt at making their own controller was the Envision Pro, which definitely had some issues, but it did do a lot of things well, and I would still argue it's the best controller we've seen from Scuf. I'm really hoping the Valor Pro is even better, so let's open it up and check it out. I should also note that at a retail price of $99, the Valor Pro is significantly cheaper than any of the other Xbox controllers from Scuf. I assume this is mostly due to the fact that this is a wired-only controller, but that said, it does include instant triggers and additional thumbsticks, which you typically don't get with the lower-tier Scuf controllers. In the box, we have a safety and warranty info pamphlet, which is not an instruction manual. The Valor Pro doesn't come with a physical manual, but you can access the full manual on Scuf's official website. Then we have a USB-A to USB-C cable, and this is a very hefty-duty 10-foot braided cable, pretty much identical to the cables that have come with all of my Scuf controllers. There's a really tiny box hiding down here, and this has the block-off plates for the inner two rear buttons. Just like with other modern Scuf controllers, you can install these plates to eliminate two of the rear buttons if you want to. As I mentioned, the Valor Pro comes with a couple of extra thumbsticks, one short and one long, and we'll go over how to change these. Then we have the gamepad, and that's it. We've got foam rings protecting the thumbsticks, which is good to see, and the gamepad itself looks very slick. I went with the steel gray color, and I love the orange accents as well. It's very on brand for Scuf. I even like how we've got the Scuf logo on the inside of the left grip, but the Valor logo is on the outside of the right grip. I think it looks really nice like this. It also feels great. The front faceplate is that soft touch material, so it doesn't feel like plastic at all. It's very smooth and just comfortable. Then we have rubberized rear grips, and this is a familiar Scuf pattern, which I also think feels good, and it legitimately does help with grip as well. This front faceplate is also removable. It's magnetically attached, so it just pops off. It's safe to assume Scuf will eventually sell all of these faceplates separately as well, like they do for their other current controller models. And they're typically 25 to 30 bucks, so if you have buyer's remorse on your color choice later, or just want different options, those should be available. With the faceplate off, we can also swap out thumbsticks, and these just pull off. As we saw, we have a couple of extras included, and the short one is basically the same height as the pre-installed thumbsticks, but it's convex instead of concave. Then we have a taller one that's also that convex design. I always get asked about control freaks in the comments of every video, so I'm going to try to remember to test these moving forward. The PlayStation freaks fit perfectly on the concave Scuf thumbsticks, but nothing really works on the convex ones just due to the way they're shaped. I typically like short convex thumbsticks on the left, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and install in the Valor Pro, but I'm going to leave the pre-installed one on the right and stick a control freak on it for now. As already mentioned, these are Hall effect sticks, so there should be no concerns about drift, and I'm looking forward to testing these out to see how well they perform. The face buttons are going to be my first complaint about the Valor Pro, as they are membrane buttons. This isn't surprising. Scuf has never done mechanical face buttons, and a lot of people don't care for them honestly, but I much prefer mechanical, so I was hoping to see that change here. The D-pad is also membrane, which is fine. I do actually prefer that, but the D-pad does feel a little bit smaller, I think, than on a typical console controller, so we'll have to see how that feels in-game. The other front inputs include a share button, since this is a licensed Xbox controller, the view and menu buttons, and then of course the Xbox home button. Then on the bottom of the Valor Pro, we have a 3.5mm audio jack and a couple of additional inputs. These are labeled SC1 and SC2, and these are scroll wheels, but also buttons. The left one controls volume, so you can scroll up and down to adjust, and pressing the SC1 button mutes the volume. Then the right one controls the game chat audio mix, and pressing it mutes your microphone. These do of course only apply if you're using a wired headset plugged directly into the gamepad. You get audio cues when the volume is at min or max level, and also a visual cue for mute. That left LED on the top blinks if you have the audio muted, and is solid if you have your microphone muted, which is a nice touch. While we're plugged in here, that green LED on the top right is the profile indicator. The Valor Pro has 3 customizable profiles indicated by the color of that LED, and you can cycle through them by pressing the profile button on the back center of the gamepad. You can also use the profile button to program the rear buttons. If you hold it for 3 seconds, the profile indicator will flash. While it's flashing, simultaneously press a rear button and any input you'd like to assign to that button, and the profile light will flash white to confirm. You can repeat the process with as many of the rear buttons as you want, and it will stay in programming mode until you either tap the profile button to exit, or it times out after no inputs are made for a few seconds. Speaking of the rear buttons, the Valor Pro design is very similar to other current Scuf controllers, but I do think they're actually more comfortable. These are made to be used with just your middle finger, which is what I prefer, and they're very easy to reach and actuate. The two outer buttons require a little more pressure, which I like since they're part of the natural grip of the controller, whereas the inner two buttons are micro switches that are super easy to press. I never actually purchased an Instinct Pro. I just couldn't talk myself into paying over $200 for a reskinned first-party Xbox controller, but I've read a lot of comments, people saying that those inner buttons are kind of hard to actuate or weird to actuate, like you have to press up on them. If that's the case, they must be significantly different than these. The Valor Pro ones are super easy to use, and it doesn't matter at all where you make contact with the button. If for some reason you don't like or don't intend to use the inner buttons, you can also eliminate these very easily. The buttons are clipped into place and have a notch where you can use your finger to just pull them off, no tools required. Then as we saw, it comes with block-off plates. These are specific to each side, so they're labeled R and L, and they just clip into place and are basically flush with the shell. Then we have the bumpers, which are pretty unique in terms of their design. They kind of wrap around the sides a little bit, and the way they're hinged, you can press them from the side as well. You can even actuate them without taking your fingers off the triggers, and it's not a stretch, like it can easily be done. I'm even a little worried that I might do it unintentionally in game, so we'll see. The triggers I absolutely love for a couple of reasons. One, as we said earlier in the video, the Valor Pro does have instant trigger locks, and these are fantastic mouse click triggers. They're on par with the Razer V3 Pro, which I've been saying are the best trigger locks currently on the market. Secondly, these triggers are shaped a little differently, just a little wider at the top than a standard Xbox controller, for instance, and to me this really improves on the comfort level. The trigger lock switches are also very easy to reach with your index fingers or middle fingers, so if you need to enable or disable the locks in game, it's no problem at all. These might be my new favorite triggers on basically any controller. I believe that covers all the features, so we're going to jump into some testing. We're going to start with polling rate, and if you've heard anything about this gamepad, you might be aware that Scuf is advertising it will support 1000 Hz polling rate on PC only at some point, but they haven't given a timetable for that. As we can see, currently we're getting 250 Hz. There haven't been any details about when or how the Valor Pro will eventually support 1000 Hz, but the support page for this controller states that if and when firmware updates are available, they'll be listed on their download page. We're going to get deeper into this in the conclusion section of this video. Next, we'll look at the Valor Pro stick resolution, which unfortunately is nothing to write home about. I ran this a few times and every result was similar, between like 97 to 108 analog points and between 100 to 125 program points. I wanted to kind of double check this, so I also pulled up Joystick Tester. Obviously there's some human error involved here, but it did consistently seem like I was getting more points to the right than the left, and more points moving down than up. I was kind of bothered by this, so I did try recalibrating, which I didn't record doing that on the gamepad itself because this is a more tedious process than with most controllers. Essentially, you hold down menu and view while plugging in the gamepad and it enters calibration mode. Then you follow these on-screen instructions. The indicator light cycled through colors just as this describes, and I had no issues completing the calibration, but it also didn't noticeably change my results, and I'm still showing more resolution points to the right and down than I am to the left and up. Basically a little over 100 points left and up, and close to 150 right and down, and this is the same for both sticks, even after repeating this recalibration method several times over. Lastly, let's look at Gamepad Tester, and I saved this for last specifically because I want this to take us directly into the conclusion section of the video. You'll notice that the sticks are consistently returning to a perfect resting value of 0.00002, which is great, but I also don't know what the default dead zones are on the Valor Pro. I can say that it doesn't feel like a massive dead zone, they feel very responsive, but I'm assuming there's some dead zone baked in here, and whatever that dead zone is, we have no way of adjusting it. The circularity of the sticks also looks fine, we have very even shading, no obvious issues whatsoever, but these are set to a rectangular algorithm, and we have no option of changing this to a circular algorithm if we want to, which is a little disappointing. If you haven't guessed yet, my biggest complaint about the Valor Pro is going to be its lack of customization. Now, I will say that I'm going to hold out a little bit of hope that this gets addressed in the future, but I definitely wouldn't bet on it. As much as I hate Scuf's IQ software, I was sincerely hoping that this controller would either be compatible with that software or would utilize its own, more user-friendly software. The reason I say I'm holding out hope is because Scuf has advertised that 1000 Hz polling will be coming to the Valor Pro, specifically for the PC. There are several controllers that have variable polling rates, but in every instance I'm aware of, that polling rate has to be manually changed within their software. The Razer V3 Pro, for instance, has a 1000 Hz PC mode, but you have to manually enable that mode, and when you do so, it no longer works on Xbox until you disable the mode. The GameStar G7 line along with the Collide have variable polling rates, but again, they have to be manually changed within the GameStar app, and when you enable 1000Hz mode, it affects how those controllers function on Xbox. So specifically, I hope that we eventually get app support for the Valor Pro as part of the process of enabling 1000Hz mode on PC, and with that app support, I hope we see some of the customization options that we're currently missing, such as dead zone adjustment, circularity algorithm options, and the ability to remap inputs on the controller other than the 4 rear buttons, and ideally keyboard mapping, at least on PC. That's an option we have with the Envision Pro through the iQ software, and frankly, I'm spoiled and I want it on every controller now. With all of that said, I actually do like the Valor Pro. It won't replace my mainstays on PC, but it might be my #1 choice on Xbox right now. I think it's more comfortable than the Razer V3 and in my opinion performs better. If I'm honest, I do think the GameStar G7 HE sticks feel noticeably better than the Valor Pros, but the Valor Pro is drastically more comfortable, has the mouse click triggers, and has 2 additional rear buttons, which I very much want on any Pro controller. If I could remap the other inputs on the Valor Pro, I feel sure I'd be compelled to use it over the G7 HE for now, but of course we have the G7 Pro coming down the pipeline soon, and I'm guessing it will make this a moot point. I hope this video helped you out, and if so, please subscribe if you haven't already. Likes are also appreciated, and I do try to react and respond to as many comments as possible. I'll be doing more reviews regularly, so I hope to see you back here again soon. Thanks for watching.